So a couple days ago, this video pops up in my recommended on YouTube called "I hired a speech therapist to fix my boring voice." Now, normally I don't watch a ton of BuzzFeed videos except for the Worth It series, but I figured this sounded kind of interesting, so I clicked on it and I ended up watching the full 22 minutes and 57 seconds. Now, as it turns out, I found this video extremely interesting, and it actually draws a lot of parallels to talking on camera and being a YouTuber. And even for non-YouTubers, talking on camera is a skill that a lot of people are utilizing nowadays. We now see realtors all the time talking on camera, trying to connect more with their potential clients. We see people who own businesses, you see athletes, you see all sorts of people, and it's certainly becoming a much more widely used skill. So why not make a tutorial on how to get better at it? Now, first and foremost, I'm just a person who makes videos. My expertise isn't in communication or talking on camera in general. It's just something I kind of picked up along the way through doing YouTube tutorials. Now, that being said, I actually think it can be beneficial for you guys to learn from someone like me who's just an amateur and kind of picked this up organically. In fact, it was only 2 years ago when I recorded my very first editing tutorial to put up here on YouTube. It's no longer live, it's actually on private because it is quite embarrassing. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you the clip anyway so that you can see my progress in just 2 years of talking to a camera for simple YouTube tutorials. Right, yeah, I uploaded a video to Instagram like yesterday, recapping some of the footage I got while I was on my trip in Florida. And there was one clip in that video where I was trying to emulate the Suicide Squad effect, and a buddy of mine asked me, how did you change the eye color of the subject in that clip using Final Cut Pro 10? And I know there's a lot of tutorials on how to do this in After Effects, but I like to do most of my editing in Final Cut unless it's absolutely necessary to use After Effects. So I figured it'd be a good idea to make a little tutorial on how to do this because it's a really useful trick that I do quite often in my videos. So yeah, if you are interested in learning how to do that, keep watching. Now, hopefully you guys agree with me that there definitely is some improvement from the way I talked on camera 2 years ago versus now. I mean, with anything in life, if you practice and do something a bunch of times, you're of course going to get better at it. But the goal I have for you today after watching this tutorial is that hopefully you can come off as being more genuine and just more overall comfortable with talking to a camera. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about body language and hand gestures. Now, for me personally, I know that when I become too aware of my own body while I'm talking to people, I become way too fixated on it, and it actually makes it more difficult to speak. So the key is that when you're talking on camera, you want to get comfortable. You'll notice for this shot right here, I have my arm just leaning on my desk. This is a very casual position for me to be relaxed and just feel natural. So that's tip number one. The more comfortable you are with the way you're sitting and the way you're positioned on camera, the more natural you're automatically gonna be. Now, when it comes to what to do with your hands, I mean, the best thing you can do is just not think about it. As soon as you become aware of your own body, you start to fixate on it, like I said, and it just makes things seem forced and unnatural. So what I like to do personally is just make my arms very limp and let my hands fall in my lap, and I'll just talk normally. Now, the speech therapist from that BuzzFeed video talks about something called the power box, and this is the area where you can use your hand gestures to help it enhance what you're talking about. So if you're talking about something in the past, you can go like that. If you're talking about something in the future, you can go like this. If you're really trying to dial in a point, you can point at the camera to really get it across, or you can open up a new point. Like, there's all sorts of ways you can use your hands. And I think that this is just something that comes with experience. I've never actually consciously thought about it. And again, here I'm doing thought, pointing at my head. But the most important thing is that your hand gestures shouldn't distract from your video. If you're talking with your hands like this the whole entire time, it's gonna be hard for people to focus on your eyes and what you're saying. Now, the next thing I wanna talk about is vocal inflection. One thing that I noticed a lot of people struggle with when talking on camera is that their vocal inflection leads them to end their sentences on an up. I know there's a lot of tutorials on how to do this in After Effects, but I like to do most of my editing in Final Cut unless it's absolutely necessary to use After Effects. Notice how that sounds kind of unnatural and almost as if I'm lacking confidence in what I'm saying. So the key is when you're wrapping up a sentence and finishing a point, you want to make sure that you end on a down. Practicing this and making sure that you end your points on a down will make sure that your viewer doesn't think that there's more coming and they know that it is the end of your point. And another thing to keep in mind is that you want to speak with purpose. If I'm going to say something that isn't all that important or it comes off as rambly, I either don't say it at all or I just cut it out of the video entirely. Sorry to interrupt, guys. I'm currently just sitting here editing this video and I quickly wanted to add that this is exactly why I use so many jump cuts in my videos. I think a lot of people might automatically assume that when I use jump cuts, it's to hide all of these screw ups and times where I stumble on my words. And while that does happen quite a bit, the main reason for all the jump cuts is to just trim out all the excess fat, all of the rambling, the ums, the uhs, just things that don't need to be in there, because I'm all about saving you guys time when you're watching my content. And that being said, when you're recording videos and talking to a camera, there's no need to be nervous, because if you do screw up, you can just cut it out or just not show anyone altogether. So yeah, I just very quickly wanted to add that in there, but let's get back into the regular video. So once you've said what you need to say, don't harp on it any longer, just get the point across and move on to the next one. Now, something that I actually struggle with is avoiding the ums and the uhs while I'm talking. Now, if you are prone to a lot of ums and uhs, you can use jump cuts to cut them out of the video, but I think it's better to actually try and kill the habit before it gets out of hand, because I know for me personally, when I and a lot, it just seems like I don't know what I'm talking about. And that is exactly why I have jot notes written down on my computer when I make these videos, because if I didn't know what I was talking about, that's what leads me to ramble and leads to those ums and uhs, because I genuinely just don't know what I'm going to say. So the next tip is actually a hard one for myself personally, but it is to try and maintain eye contact with the camera lens. Now, I myself often look around the room and gaze off into space when I'm trying to collect my thoughts, and I think that this is only natural and isn't such a bad thing, but if you do it too much, it starts to look like you're not confident and you lose that connection with your viewer. Now, the last tip for today, and what I think is the most important tip, is to just be yourself, but try to be a more engaging version of yourself. People often say you should talk to the camera as if you're talking to one of your friends, but personally, I find that this doesn't really work for me. Rather, when I'm talking on camera, I actually picture that I'm in a boardroom and I'm pitching a business idea to a medium-sized group of people. I feel like doing it this way just brings out a little bit more confidence and a little bit more professionalism as well. But that is it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it or found it helpful in some sort of way, then make sure you hit it with the thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at daniel.schiffer. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.